Hey everybody, welcome to another Probably Private. I'm Catherine Jarmel, and today we're going to dive into, hopefully you have a little bit of data. Hopefully you have some ideas of how you're going to evaluate the data and some ideas of your computer and your setup. Maybe you're just getting your computer and your setup going. Check out my video on setting up your computer. But this video today, we're going to talk about vLLM, which is an amazing open source tool that you're going to be able to use to serve LLMs locally from something like an AI lab or any type of GPU-enabled machine or accelerated hardware chip machine. And we're going to cover why would you do that and kind of how to get started. So first, what is vLLM? Well, it's a library that is going to automatically, it sounds like magic, but it's going to automatically optimize and accelerate serving LLMs. So kind of if you've been following this channel for a while, if not subscribe, but if you've been following this channel for a while, we've used a lot of OLLAMA, sometimes llama files. So those are kind of small instances of what's essentially LLM is a more robust, larger version of figuring out how to serve these models for yourself. Now, why should you use the LLM for local AI setups? Well, it already thought through a bunch of compatibility. So it already has a lot of interconnected compatibility based on your hardware, based on the models that are available. So it integrates directly with Hugging Face, so you can load lots of models. And they're literally kind of probably, I would say, one of the leading groups that implements research, does their own research, but then also implements the research on how do we actually optimize these to run on smaller compute or even to run at scale. All of us want efficiency in how we're using our GPUs, like regardless of how big or small your setup is, we all want to efficiently use our GPUs, and vLLM has done a bunch of research and optimization on that. And I'll link to some of the examples, but you might have heard of things like speculative decoding, page detention, different ways of chunking workflows, all of this stuff that goes directly from research into vLLM, which is why it's such a popular project. Okay, and you kind of get all of that for free. So particularly if you're dealing with a smaller GPU, which you probably are, and in general, you're probably dealing with a pretty low latency situation, right? You're sending it over your router or something like this. You probably also don't have a lot of traffic, so you don't have to worry about those things. But either way, vLLM is a way that you can serve multiple models at the same time from the same server. You could have multiple people, or you could be using 5 different requests at once, and it's going to automatically kind of load balance that for you. And yeah, you don't have to worry about the pain of integrating libraries into your hardware setup, which, let me tell you, is not a fun problem to solve. So if you don't have to solve it, then don't solve it. Now, obviously in the name, this is going to mainly work with language models, but it's also set up to work with language vision models, so some of the multimodal models. And I expect them to, kind of forward look and do compatibility. Okay, so you can use it with Python directly. So let's say you're running vLLM on your bigger machine and you're using your laptop or your phone or whatever. You could just literally call and load vLLM on the big machine. And by doing so, you could either SSH into the big machine, or you could just be using the big machine directly with a monitor. That's fine. But what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you how to use it from one machine SSHing into another machine. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to SSH into my little gaming machine laptop, the pink rainbow one that I showed you a video on. And here I am, I'm SSH'd in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, and I have all these instructions in the notebook you're going to see later, but first I need to make sure that I have everything installed. So I already have all this set up, again, from the Feminist AI LAN party. Using Python 3.12 is what I'm using on this machine, but Set up your environment however you like. I know some people like UV. I'm older, so I use Conda and pip. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I think it's silly for us to argument about environment wars when there's so many other things that we could argue about. But yeah, get your environment set up. You're going to want Torch installed. You obviously want vLLM installed. You might want some extra things for your environment installed. Doesn't matter. Get your Python environment set up. I'll put links for that down below. And then we're going to use Hugging Face CLI. So eventually you're going to want to set up a Hugging Face account. It's really easy to do. You're going to eventually probably want some gated models. So some of the guardrailed models and stuff like that are gated. So you're going to want to create a login, request access to some of those models. And then if you go to your tokens, you're going to be able to log in via your CLI. So I've already logged into this machine, but this is something that you might want to do. But there's also models you can use that don't require login. So you're going to make sure you have Hugging Face installed, Torch installed, vLLM installed in your environment. And you can double check that by running Hugging Face CLI to check your Hugging Face installation, log in if you want to. And then to do vLLM, I'm just going to there's lots of things you can add here to the serve command. But I'm literally just going to show you running vLLM serve and then the model name. And the model name is structured like the Hugging Face repo name. So here is the MetaLlama, and it's MetaLlama 38B instruct. And when I run it, vLLM is going to automatically check via Hugging Face, do I have everything? If not, it's going to download a bunch of things. You can see here, this is a bunch of environment settings that we can set up. So you can play with a lot of these types of things. And especially as you advance your local AI usage, you're probably going to want to advance some of this. We can see chunked prefill. That's one of the things that they have running. They have a bunch of KVs. So here is loading the tensors automatically for me so that the model is now running on the GPU. And there it is. It's running on 15 gigabytes. So you may or may not be able to actually run this model depending on the size of your GPU. But it's all loaded. So now eventually it's going to tell me it's ready to go. It's got default chat sampling, and there we go. Now it's ready to go. The chat is available for me. So I'm going to go to my Jupyter Notebook now. Okay, now here's my Jupyter Notebook. I've written out the steps for you, and I'll put a link to this notebook. This is in the private and personalized AI repo that I have, where I'm going to share with you a bunch of examples as I work on them. If you want to just fork it and keep updated, that's fine, or you can just download this Jupyter Notebook. So here I have a little bit of those instructions. Again, obviously getting your machine set up and getting it connected. So mine's connected literally via my local router. And then when I SSH'd in, so I already set up the SSH key so I can automatically SSH in as my own user. And yeah, getting all that set up is a good idea first, and making sure before you get into serving mode, serving via vLLM, that you have all that set up. Python installation, yada, yada, yada. So then what we can literally do is vLLM works automatically with the OpenAI setup. So I'm just going to ask what day is today. It's probably not going to answer correctly because that's not something that LLMs are good at. But I'm putting it in my messages list with the different dictionary elements. And so I can check that my messages is formatted well, looks good to me. And then we're not using OpenAI, we're using vLLM with our own model, so that's fine. And then I literally have here, you're going to have to change this for your setup. This is the local IP that my machine is available to me. And the default port that it's serving on is 8,000. And I think there's eventually going to be a different version of the API. But this will work, so you can use this as long as you update it for whatever's the IP of the computer that you're using across hopefully your local internet, right? So plugging into your little Wireless router should be a fine way to do this, and then probably your wireless router has a login and can tell you what IPs, or you just hook up a monitor to your machine. You figure out what IP it's assigned, and you make sure you can reach it. Okay, so now that's there. And now I'm just going to call it like I would a normal OpenAI client with my empty key and my base URL. And then I can literally just call completion. And what I'm going to want to make sure here is that my model name here matches up with the model name that I'm serving. Can send over the messages and wait for my completion. It completes pretty quickly, and I just check. And here we go. It's being very nice to me. It says, look outside. Look outside to see what day it is. I love that. That's great. Maybe you don't need to know what day it is. Maybe you can just look outside. I don't have a smart speaker either, but these are all great tips on how to figure out what day it is that, if I didn't know how to figure it out myself, might be useful. So let me know, getting started with vLLM, how to go. I hope that maybe this notebook is useful for you, or let me know what other questions you have about vLLM. I definitely probably do a later video on like serving multiple models at the same time from one machine. So we'll cover that at some point in time. And we'll probably cover that when we start working on routing, which is a fun concept to start playing with. Now, one thing I do want to say about vLLM is it has a lot of optimizations that are memory-based optimizations. And what we often know from privacy is that this leaks information. So what I'm showing you is presuming you're going to use vLLM on your own machine with other people you trust on your home network, right? But I'm not trying to say that it's going to fix privacy problems in other types of setups, right? Where you might be serving many different strangers on shared compute and, dealing with things like potential memory leakage, information leakage via memory. That's not what I'm trying to set up for. So this is, I just want to say that, privacy of running your own VLM on your own hardware with your own prompts and your own data, and maybe your friends and family that are at your house, so like people you trust. So let me know how it goes. Did you get it running? Are you testing out different models? So give it a try. If you're doing a smaller GPU, there's many 1 billion models. I would start there. Start with some 1 billion models. In fact, I think it might just be called 1 billion instruct, but have a look. And let me know how your first experiments go and what else you want to learn about serving models from one machine and then using them from another. All right, I'll see you in the next video.